The first Tuesday of the month found Lena in a kitchen that was not her own, the air thick with the ghosts of 1,000 meals. It smelled of old wood, turmeric, and the faint, sweet hint of vanilla trapped in the curtains. She held her laptop bag like a shield, her food blog, a sleek, modern entity of precise recipes and calculated macro shots, feeling alien in this space of warm, lived-in chaos. This was the Recipe Swap, a name she'd found online, clinging to it as a life raft in the vast, indifferent ocean of a new city. The members were a study in delightful contradictions. Mr. Singh, a retired chemistry teacher, stood at the counter with a digital scale and a set of measuring spoons laid out like surgical instruments. His lentil dish simmered with the quiet, predictable rhythm of a well-conducted experiment. The variance in soil composition alone can alter the water absorption of a dal by up to 12%. He was explaining to no one in particular, his voice a calm, steady baritone. Across from him, Maria, whose hands were a roadmap of a long and well-lived life, kneaded dough for her focaccia. She didn't measure. Her fingers would dive into a ceramic jar of flour, emerging with a perfect cloud-like handful. A glug of olive oil, a pinch of salt tossed over her shoulder for luck. Her movements were a slow, graceful dance, her knuckles, dusted white, pressing and folding with a timeless rhythm. "You need to feel it in your bones, querido," she said to Mr. Singh, her eyes crinkling, "not in your calculator." Then there was Chloe, a burst of vibrant energy in a mustard-yellow apron that read, "Kale, yeah." She was arranging gluten-free vegan brownies on a platter with the reverence of a museum curator. "The secret is aquafaba," she announced to Lena, her voice bright and earnest. "The brine from a can of chickpeas. It whips up like egg whites. It's pure kitchen magic." Lena, the pragmatist, simply nodded. Her own offering, a perfectly segmented citrus tart, the candied zest arranged in a geometrically perfect spiral, suddenly felt sterile. The potlucks were a monthly negotiation. Lena watched, mesmerized, as these worlds collided. Mr. Singh would gently frown at Maria's handful of cheese, his fingers twitching as if yearning for his scale. Maria would pat his arm and say, "A little more love never hurt a recipe, professor." Chloe would passionately advocate for flax eggs over chicken eggs, while Maria would counter with a story about her grandmother's flock of hens in Sicily, their feathers the color of rust at sunset. The real shift came when someone, perhaps Maria, suggested they compile a community cookbook. The idea hung in the air, as delicate as a soufflé, and just as prone to collapse. They began meeting in each other's kitchens. In Mr. Singh's immaculate apartment, everything was stainless steel and labeled. He documented Maria's salsa de la abuela, translating her gestures into metrics. Maria's glug, he stated, peering at a graduated cylinder, appears to be approximately 30 milliliters. Maria just laughed, a sound like warm bread cracking open. In Maria's sun-drenched kitchen, with its chipped tile and the constant low hum of a radio playing old boleros, Mr. Singh was adrift. He watched, helpless, as she instructed him to toast the cumin until it sings. He held a pan over the flame, his brow furrowed in concentration. "I do not hear any singing," he murmured, just as the seeds released their deep, earthy fragrance with a soft, percussive crackle. A slow, genuine smile spread across his face. "Ah," he said, "a metaphorical aria." Lena was tasked with the blog-like duty of photographing the process, but her sterile, white backdrop style failed utterly. The soul of Maria's salsa wasn't in the perfect dice of the tomatoes, but in the way the light caught the steam rising from the molcajete, and in the flecks of cilantro clinging to Maria's thumb. So, Lena started capturing the in-between moments. The flour-dusted smile Maria gave Mr. Singh when his first attempt at kneading didn't end in disaster. The focused intensity on Chloe's face as she carefully wrote "a generous glug of maple syrup, about the amount that makes your heart happy," for her brownie recipe. The emotional chain was subtle but potent. Chloe, frustrated that her vegan brownies were deemed too dense by the group, announced she might quit the project. Lena saw the bright, earnest light in Chloe's eyes dim. She felt a pang of protective fondness for this young woman who wanted to change the world, one bean brine at a time. Instead of offering a technical solution, Lena sat beside her. "Tell me about the first thing you ever baked," she said softly. Chloe, her voice thick, described sunflowers with her mother, grinding the seeds for a birthday cake for a lactose-intolerant friend. The story found its way, in a pared-down, poignant sentence, into the introduction of her brownie recipe. The recipe was no longer just instructions, it was a memory. The final meeting was in Lena's own, once pristine apartment. It was a blustery autumn evening, the wind rattling the window panes. The room was warm, filled with the layered, comforting sense of all their combined efforts. The draft of the cookbook was open on Lena's laptop, a chaotic but beautiful document of precise grams, poetic pinches, and heartfelt stories. Mr. Singh was helping Maria format a section, his large, careful hands typing as she dictated. "You write, 'Add the sofrito when the onion has wept enough,'" he said, pausing. He looked at the pan of translucent, golden onions before them. "Aesthetically, I believe we have achieved the appropriate level of lacrimation." Maria beamed. "See, you are becoming a poet." Chloe was adapting her grandmother's biscuit recipe, substituting butter for coconut oil and buttermilk for almond milk, with a scientist's focus and an artist's intuition. Lena watched it all, her camera forgotten. She was no longer just documenting, she was part of the recipe. She looked at the group, the chemist, the grandmother, the idealist, and the pragmatist, all bent over a single project, their differences no longer clashing but complementing, like the sweet and the sour in a perfect gastrique. The community cookbook wasn't just a collection of instructions. It was a story of how a handful of precision, a generous pinch of intuition, and a steady beat of passion could, when given time and a warm enough environment, create something entirely new and far greater than the sum of its parts. It was the proof that the most important ingredient in any recipe was never listed. It was the quiet, alchemical magic of belonging.